It happened in the middle of a normal conversation. Nothing tense, nothing unusual, just dinner. Plates half finished. Someone talking about something I wasn't really listening to. Then, my wife looked up, not at me, at her brother. Just for a second, something passed between them. Small, but not nothing. She turned back to me and said, "He knows." Quiet, certain, like she was confirming something. The table changed. Not loudly, just enough. Someone set their fork down. Someone else stopped mid-sentence. No one looked at me. That was the part that landed. I sat there, still holding my glass, trying to figure out what I was supposed to know. No one had told me anything. Not before dinner. Not during. Not ever. That should have felt confusing. It didn't. It felt specific, like I had just walked into the middle of a conversation that started without me. I took a sip, set the glass down carefully. Didn't ask anything. Didn't react. Just watched. Because whatever this was, everyone else at the table already understood it. Except me. And somehow, that didn't seem like a mistake. Sarah and I had always been clear with each other. Not perfect, but honest. That was the thing we both leaned on when everything else got messy. For years married. No major secrets. No long silences that meant something else underneath. If something was off, we talked about it. Or at least, we didn't actively avoid it. Her family was different. Not a bad way. Just tighter. More internal. Conversations that didn't always include everyone in the room. Decisions that seemed to happen before they were ever spoken out loud. I noticed it early. The first few dinners. The way they'd reference something that clearly had a backstory I hadn't heard. I'd smile, nod, let it pass. That should have bothered me. It didn't. I assumed it was just family history. Things I wasn't there for. They were welcoming. That part was real. Warm enough. Polite in a way that never crossed into distance. But there was always something slightly performed about it. Like I was included, but not fully inside. Sarah used to joke about it. "They're just like that," she'd say. "They overthink everything." I nod. Every family does something. That was enough. For a long time, it didn't matter. Because whatever existed between them, it didn't interfere with us. Then about 3 weeks before that dinner, something shifted. Small at first. The kind of thing you notice, but don't immediately question. She started taking calls in the other room. Not hiding it, just stepping away. I'd hear her voice from down the hall, lower than usual, more contained. Then she'd come back like nothing had changed. "Everything good?" I asked once. "Yeah," she said. "Just family stuff." I nodded. That should have been enough. It was. At the time. It happened again a few days later. Same pattern. Phone rings. She glances at the screen. Steps away. Comes back a few minutes later, picking up whatever we were doing without missing a beat. I was sitting on the couch one evening, laptop open, half working, half watching something I wasn't really paying attention to. Her phone buzzed on the table. She picked it up, saw the name, stood. "I'll be right back," she said. I watched her walk into the other room, the door closing a little more than it needed to. That should have felt like something. It didn't. It felt like temporary. After the call, she came back, sat down beside me. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. "Just some stuff with Daniel." Her brother. I nodded once. "All right." I didn't ask more. That was the pattern. Information, but not detail. Enough to acknowledge something existed. Not enough to understand it. A few days later, we were at her parents' place. Same house. Same table. Her mom was talking to her in the kitchen while I stood nearby, grabbing a glass of water. Their voices dropped slightly when I stepped closer. Not abruptly. Just enough. I paused for half a second, then kept moving. Didn't stop. Didn't listen harder. Just noticed. That should have made me ask something. It didn't. Because I trusted her. And trust at that point meant not digging into things that hadn't been offered. Looking back, that was the shift. Not what they said. What they didn't. Small things. Conversations that ended when I entered the room. Details that stayed just out of reach. A tone that suggested something was being handled. Just not with me in it. None of it was big enough to confront. Not on its own. But stacked. Quietly. And somewhere in that. Something had already been decided. Not by me. That should have mattered more at the time. It didn't. Because I thought, whatever it was, it would eventually include me. It didn't. By the time we sat down at that dinner, everyone else already knew exactly what was happening, and I was still operating under the assumption that if something involved me, I'd be told. I didn't say anything at the table. That was the first decision. Not calculated, just instinct. I kept eating, not because I was hungry, because stopping would have made it obvious. And whatever this was, I wasn't ready to react to it in front of them. Sarah didn't look at me again after she said it. He knows. Like the sentence had already done what it needed to do. Conversation picked back up. Not fully. Slightly off rhythm. Like everyone was adjusting around something that had just shifted. Her dad asked a question that didn't connect to anything before it. Her mom answered too quickly. Daniel didn't say anything at all. Just sat there, eyes down, moving food around his plate. I noticed everything. That was the problem. If I had missed it, it would have been easier. But once you see a room react like that, you understand something without needing it explained. This had already been discussed. Not just between Sarah and her parents. All of them. And I was the only one at that table who didn't know what it was. That should have felt confusing. It didn't. It felt structured, like I'd been kept outside of something on purpose. I picked up my glass again, took a sip, set it down carefully. No noise. No interruption. No one asked me anything. That part stood out. Normally, someone would have pulled me into the conversation. A question. A comment. Something to bring me back into the room. It didn't happen. I just sat there, present, but not included. That should have made me ask something immediately. It didn't, because I already knew, whatever this was, it wasn't meant to be explained here. Dinner ended the way it always did. Plates cleared, chairs pushed back, small conversations breaking into smaller ones. I helped clean up. Routine. Nothing out of place. Sarah moved around the kitchen like everything was normal. Same tone. Same pace. No acknowledgement of what she said. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the phrase itself. The lack of anything after it. Like it didn't need follow-up. We left shortly after. Same as always. Goodbyes. Hugs. Familiar. No one mentioned it. Not directly. Not even a hint. That should have felt strange. It didn't. It felt consistent. Because if something had been kept from me this long, it wasn't going to be explained casually on the way out. The car ride was quiet at first. Not tense. Just space. I started the engine, pulled out, eyes on the road. Waited a minute. Then two. I could feel it sitting there. Between us. She was looking out the window, hands folded in her lap. Still, that should have made me hesitate. It didn't. What did you mean by that? I asked. She didn't answer right away. That pause told me more than anything she could have said immediately. It's complicated, she said. I nodded slightly. Okay. Another pause. I was going to tell you, she added. That should have helped. It didn't. Tell me what? I asked. She shifted in her seat slightly, looking down at her hands. My family asked me to wait. I glanced at her briefly, then back at the road. Wait for what? Silence. Longer this time. That was the moment. Not the dinner. Not the phrase. This. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just information being delayed. It was a decision about when I was allowed to know something. That clearly involved me. That should have made me push harder. It didn't. Because something had already clicked. This wasn't a misunderstanding. I wasn't catching up. I was being managed. And for the first time, that felt unmistakably clear. She told me that night. Not all at once. In pieces. We were sitting in the car outside our place, engine off, neither of us moving to get out. She kept her hands in her lap, fingers lightly pressed together like she was holding something in place. It's about Daniel, she said. I nodded. Okay. Another pause. Then, he's been in trouble for a while. I looked at her. What kind of trouble? She exhaled slowly. Financial. That part didn't surprise me. Daniel had always moved fast. Big ideas. Bigger risks. It fit. How long? I asked. Almost a year. A year. I leaned back slightly in the seat. And I'm hearing about it now. She flinched at that. I was going to tell you. You said that. Silence. My parents wanted to handle it first, she added. They thought it would be easier if... If what? I cut in. She stopped, looked at me. Before it got complicated. That should have been where I pushed harder. It wasn't. Because I already knew. We weren't at the center of this yet. What does that have to do with me? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. That pause again. Longer this time. That's where it gets complicated, she said. I waited. Didn't fill the silence. Didn't help her say it. Finally, he used your name on something. The words landed clean. Too clean. What does that mean? I asked. He needed a reference, she said quickly, for a place he was trying to rent. And he what? She looked down. He put you down as a guarantor. I sat there for a second, not reacting, just processing the sentence. A guarantor, I repeated. She nodded. Yeah, but it's not. Did I sign anything? No. That should have been the part that ended it. It didn't. Then how's my name on it? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Didn't try to soften it this time. He used your information. There it was. I looked straight ahead, hand still on the wheel. The street was quiet. Nothing moving. That's fraud, I said. Her breath caught slightly. I know how it sounds. That's not how it sounds, I said. That's what it is. Silence. He thought it would be fine, she said. He didn't think it would come back to you. I turned my head slightly, looking at her. He used my name without asking. She nodded. I know. That should have made me angry. It didn't. Not yet. Because I was still putting the pieces together. Does the landlord think I signed it? I asked. I don't know, she said. I think maybe they just needed someone with stronger credit. I let out a slow breath, leaning back into the seat. And your parents knew about this. Another pause. Then, yes. I nodded once. Of course they did. That should have felt like betrayal. It didn't. It felt consistent. They were trying to help him, she said. I almost smiled at that. Almost. By using me. No, she said quickly. Not like that. I looked at her. Then how? She didn't answer. Because there wasn't another version of it. I tapped my fingers lightly against the steering wheel once, then stopped. And you knew, I said. She swallowed. Yes. How long? A few weeks. I nodded slowly. That was the part that shifted something. Not Daniel. Not even her parents. Her. That should have been the moment I reacted. Raised my voice. Pushed harder. Turned it into something bigger. I didn't. Because the situation didn't need volume. It needed clarity. I need to see the document, I said. She looked at me. Daniel's handling it. I need to see the document, Sarah. No edge. No escalation. Just direct. She held my eye for a second, then nodded. Okay. That was the moment everything changed. Not at the dinner table. Not when she said he knows. Here. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just something they kept from me. It was something they used me for. And now, I needed to see exactly how. I got the document 2 days later. Not from Daniel. From Sarah. She handed it to me without saying much. Printed. Stapled. A few pages. I took it, sat down at the table, and flipped through it once without really reading. Just seeing it. My name was there. Clear. Typed. Then signed. Not my signature. Close enough to pass if you didn't look too hard. Wrong enough that I knew immediately. That should have made it feel unreal. It didn't. It made it feel official. I set the papers down, leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling for a second. Then I picked them up again. This time slower. Guarantor. That word showed up more than once. Not a reference. Not informal. Legal. I ran my thumb along the edge of the page, then set it flat on the table. That's not me, I said. Sarah nodded. I know. I didn't look at her. Not yet. Instead, I reached for my phone. Scrolled once. Then stopped. I didn't call Daniel. That wasn't the move. I called a lawyer. The conversation was short. Clear. I explained it simply. My name is on a rental guarantee. I didn't sign it. There was a pause on the other end. Then, give me a copy of the document. I have it. Send it. I did. Sat there while they reviewed it. A few minutes later, this is a problem, they said. I nodded slightly. I figured. You need to formally dispute this, they continued. Immediately. If the landlord decides to pursue it, you could be held liable unless you establish that the signature is fraudulent. That should have felt alarming. It didn't. It felt confirming. Okay, I said. They outlined the steps. Formal notice. Written dispute. Paper trail. No emotion. Just process. I ended the call, set the phone down, and sat there for a second. Hands flat on the table. Document in front of me. Sarah was watching me. Quiet. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked at her. Finally. I'm removing myself from this, I said. Ow! Through the proper channels. She shifted slightly. My parents think. I'm not asking what they think, I said. Not sharp. Just direct. Silence. I didn't sign that document, I continued. So, I'm not part of it. She nodded slowly. I understand that. That should have felt like agreement. It didn't. It felt like distance. I picked up the papers again, tapped them once against the table, then set them down. I'm going to dispute it, I said. She looked at me. Concerned now. That's going to cause problems, she said. I nodded. Yeah. With my family. I leaned back slightly. It already has. That landed. She didn't respond. I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up a glass, filled it with water, took a sip, then set it down. I'm not handling this quietly, I said. She turned toward me. I didn't ask you to. I held her eye for a second. You waited, I said. No accusation. Just fact. She didn't look away. I know. That should have turned into something bigger. It didn't. Because the focus wasn't on what she did. It was on what I needed to do next. I walked back to the table, picked up the document, folded it once, then set it aside. I'm sending the notice tomorrow, I said. She nodded. Okay. No argument. No attempt to stop it. That mattered. But it didn't change anything. Because this wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a process. And once I started it, there was no version of this where I stepped back. That should have felt like escalation. It didn't. It felt like correction. Something that should have been clear from the beginning. Finally being made official. The notice went out the next morning. No delay. No second guessing. Formal. Clear. My name. The document. The statement that the signature was not mine. No emotion in it. Just fact. That should have felt like escalation. It didn't. It felt like alignment. I went about my day like normal. Work. Calls. Small things that didn't carry any of this into them. But underneath, something had already shifted. Daniel called that afternoon. First time, I let it ring once. Twice. Then answered. Hey, he said, like we were picking up something casual. Hey. A pause. Not long. Just enough to acknowledge what this was about. I heard you're doing something about the lease, he said. I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the window. I am. Another pause. I was going to handle it, he added. That should have meant something. It didn't. You already did, I said. Silence. I didn't think it would turn into this, he said. I picked up a pen, turned it once in my hand, then set it down. You used my name without asking. I know, he said quickly. I just thought. What? I asked. He stopped. That'll be fine, he said. I nodded once. That's the problem. Silence again. I wasn't trying to screw you over, he added. I almost smiled at that. Almost. It's not about what you were trying to do, I said. It's about what you did. That landed. I can fix it, he said. Just give me a little time. That should have sounded reasonable. It didn't. I already gave you time, I said. He didn't respond. I'm not part of this, I continued. So, I'm removing myself from it. Another pause. Longer. You're making this harder than it needs to be, he said. That line. I leaned back slightly. No, I said. I'm making it accurate. Silence. That's going to cause problems, he said. I nodded. Yeah. For everyone. I tapped my finger once against the desk. It already has. He exhaled slowly. Frustrated now. I thought you'd understand, he said. That should have been where I reacted. It didn't. Understand what? I asked. That I needed help, he said. I held the phone a little tighter. Then you should have asked, I said. No edge. No emphasis. Just the point. He didn't answer. Because there wasn't anything to answer with. We stayed on the line for a second longer. Then he said, all right. Not agreement. Just recognition. All right, I said. We ended the call there. That should have felt like resolution. It didn't, because this wasn't between me and him anymore. The calls from her parents came next. First her mom. Gentle. Careful. We can figure this out together, she said. I listened. Didn't interrupt. I'm handling it through the proper channels, I said. A pause. That might not be necessary, she added. It is, I said. Same tone. Same line. Then her dad. More direct. Family handles things internally, he said. I nodded slightly, even though he couldn't see it. I didn't sign that document, I said. That's the beginning and end of it. Silence. That should have turned into pressure. It didn't, because I wasn't negotiating. The process moved forward. Paperwork filed. Responses logged. Everything documented. And with each step, the distance became clearer, not louder, not dramatic, just defined. By the time it was done, my name was removed. No liability. No connection. Clean. Daniel had to figure out his own solution. That should have felt like victory. It didn't. It felt like correction. Because the goal was never to win anything. It was to make sure I wasn't part of something I never agreed to. And once that was done, everything else could settle where it actually belonged. Things didn't explode after that. That's what I expected, at least a little. Raised voices. Long conversations. Someone trying to pull everything back into something that felt like family again. It didn't happen. It just shifted. Sarah's parents were cooler for a while. Not openly. Still polite. Still inviting us over. Still saying the right things. But the tone changed. Slightly. Less warmth behind it. Less effort to make it feel easy. That should have bothered me. It didn't. Because I understood it. I hadn't followed the way they handled things. Quietly. Internally. Without involving people who weren't already inside. And in doing that, I made something visible they would have preferred stayed contained. Daniel didn't reach out again. Not after that call. We saw each other a few times after. Same room. Same table. He'd nod. Hey. Nothing more. That should have felt tense. It didn't. It felt settled. Because there wasn't anything left to argue about. The situation was already resolved. Just not in the way he expected. The biggest shift was with Sarah. Not dramatic. Not immediate. Just clearer. One night, a few weeks after everything had settled, we were sitting in the living room. No TV on. No phones. Just quiet. She looked at me for a long second before saying anything. I should have told you right away. I nodded. Yeah. She didn't look away. I didn't think about it like that at the time, she said. I just did what my family does. I leaned back slightly, resting my arm along the back of the couch. And what's that? She hesitated. Then, handle things internally. Don't make them bigger than they need to be. I nodded. That works if it only affects you. She took that in. Didn't push back. I didn't realize until now, she said slowly, that you weren't actually inside that. That line stayed for a second. I don't need to be inside everything, I said. She looked at me. I know, but I can't be used in something I was never told about. No emphasis. No edge. Just the boundary. She nodded. I understand that now. That should have fixed something. It didn't. Because this wasn't about fixing. It was about seeing it clearly. We sat there for a while after that. No rush to move on. No attempt to soften it into something lighter. Just letting it exist. And in that space, something changed. Not in a big way. Not something you could point to and say, that's where everything got better. It was smaller. More structural. She started telling me things earlier. Not everything, but enough. When something came up with her family, I knew about it. Before it was decided. Before it was managed. That mattered. Not because I needed control. Because I needed awareness. The difference was respect. And once that was there, everything else felt more stable. We didn't try to repair the relationship with her family. Not directly. We showed up. Still went to dinners. Still sat at the same table. But I stopped trying to be included in a way that didn't exist. That should have felt like distance. It didn't. It felt like accuracy. Because the truth was, I had never been fully inside that circle. Not really. And once I saw that, I stopped trying to step into it the wrong way. The phrase stayed with me. He knows. I thought about it more than I expected, not because of what it revealed about Daniel, or even about her parents, because of what it revealed about how they saw me, not as someone to include, as someone to manage. That should have felt insulting. It didn't. It felt clarifying, because once you understand how someone sees you, you stop expecting them to see you differently, and that changes how you move. I don't need to be in every conversation. I don't need to be inside every decision, but I do need to be told when something involves me. That's the line. And now, it's clear. The marriage didn't break. It didn't even bend the way people expect in stories like this. It just adjusted. Cleaner, more direct, less assumption. And that ended up being stronger than what we had before. Not because it was warmer, because it was honest. I still think about that dinner sometimes. The way the room shifted. The way no one looked at me. The way she said it. Like I already knew. That should have been the moment everything fell apart. It wasn't. It was the moment everything became visible. And once something is visible, you can go back to not seeing it. I don't try to, because the truth is, I didn't need to be included in everything. I just needed to know when I already was. I don't think about that night as the moment her family shut me out. If anything, it was the moment I finally saw where I had been standing the whole time. If stories like this feel a little too familiar, that's why I keep telling them over at Where Silence Ends. And tell me, what would hurt you more, being left out or realizing you were only included when it was convenient?